We're going to continue with chapter 12. But first, I would like to do a revision. What did we spoke last week on Sunday on chapter 12? What did we learn? We learned that Natan Navi came to David HaMelech and telling him a story. We explained that the story, a matter of fact, never was exist, never happened. It was a parable. Natan Navi telling David HaMelech a story about a rich man, that he was very rich, and not only that he was rich, he had a lot of flock. And it was a poor man that had only one sheep. And one day, a visitor came to visit the rich man, and the rich man decided that he's not going to take any animal from his flock, and he decided to take the poor person sheep. And he slaughtered her, and he dished it, and he make from it food for the visitors. And when David HaMelech heard about it, he got cross, we explained. And a matter of fact, he said a few things that affected his future. Number one, he said that that rich man deserved a punishment of death, and we explained how did David HaMelech done it, because David HaMelech judge him according to a law of a king, because a king can judge, we explained, but it's not according to the Torah. Second thing he said that the punishment that he have to do is to pay 4 times more. And all of those actually affected David HaMelech. We explained that Natan Navi then said to him, listen, David HaMelech, was just a parable. It was a mashal. The mashal is speaking about you, David. Okay, David HaMelech. You was the rich man. You have many wives, while Uriah Hitti have only one wife. That means that you have many wives. Uriah Hitti have only one, and you took his wife, and therefore you have to pay 4 times more. And David HaMelech said, that's what I said, that's what it should be. And Natan Navi explained that 4 kids, 4 from his own descendants, gonna die, we explained. Regarding the punishment of the rich man, David HaMelech davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgive him. That's to prove, we explained that that's proof that David HaMelech never sinned with a married woman. Okay, remember that. But David HaMelech later on been punished that 4 of his kids gonna die, and he's gonna have a lot of tragedy in his own household, we explain. Okay, as David HaMelech received all of those bad news from Natan Navi, we explained, turned around and left. He didn't wait. Why did Natan Navi left? We explained, simply because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't happy with David HaMelech. Therefore, Natan Navi didn't want to be there, as I'll explain. That's where plus minus we stop. We also added up. As Natan Navi left David HaMelech, immediately his little boy that just born to him and to Bathsheba start to get sick. And now that's where we stop, basically, that we explain that also Natan Navi told David HaMelech that he actually, something bad gonna happen to him from his own house, that member of his house gonna cause him a lot of sorrows. And we explained that's referring to Avshalom, that Avshalom gonna take his wife, I mean David HaMelech, son of Avshalom, okay, that he was the son of Ma'acha, okay, he gonna lose him because Ishat Yefat Toar that he took in a war, we explained that he's going to take some of his wife. Until here, that's what we spoke, Rabotai, last week. I'm summarizing briefly as much as I can what we learned last week. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, I would like first of all to dedicate the show tonight in a soul of Tamar Bat Zehava, that tonight, that's her yortzeit. May please God, the show gonna uplift her neshama in heaven. Also, in a soul of Esther Kaden Bat Ketia, Mordechai Ben Rachma, Farha Bat Salha, Malka Regina Bat Joya, Yaakov Salomon Ben Farha, Shmuel Ben Dodo, Eliyahu Meir Ben Farha, Yosef Ben Shlomo, וסלחה בת מעתוקה. נשמתם תהיה צרורה בצור החיים. Also, I would like to dedicate the שיעור in health of ליאורה בת מרים, מנשה נג'י בן פרחה, הרב משה בן בהי בתיה, הרב משה בן דבורה, הרב שלמה יהודה בן דליה, הרב יצחק בן ימנה, הרב אברהם בן מרינה, הרב שמעון ציון בן חנה, דבורה בת אסתר, שינה קהילה בת חנה, מרדכי דוד בן לאה, יהודה הלל בן שולמית לאה, חיים נחום בן פסח עז הכהן, ברוך בן שרה חיינה, יהודה בן אליעזר, נועם בן שני תפארת, צבי בן חווה מלכה, אפרים בן לאה, איילה עדן בת רבקה, אורנה בלומה בת מרים, ודוד הרצל בן דזי, ולכל חולה ופצועי עמו בית ישראל. Please God, רפואה שלמה to all of those that need speedily רפואה שלמה, that הקדוש ברוך הוא, please God, will send a fully, speedily recover to all חולי עמו בית ישראל. With no further talking, we have our friend Jeffrey, our Baal Koreh Jeffrey, that waiting for us. We're going to start, Rabotai, we're going to repeat quickly verses 13 to 15, because we stop in verse 17, but I just want to repeat it quickly and then we'll continue. So we're going to read in chapter 12, verse 13, 14, and 15, and we'll explain that and then we'll continue. וילך נתן אל ביתו, ויגוף אדוני את הילד אשר ילדה אשת אוריה לדוד, ויענש. ויבקש דוד את האלוהים בעד הנער, ויצום דוד צום, הוא בא ולן ושכב ארצה, ויקומו, כן, that's it, כן, בכבוד.
Rob, this is chapter 12 or chapter 13?
Chapter 12.
It doesn't.
I didn't read 13. I just read.
Oh God, sorry.
My mistake.
No.
I read 15 and 16.
No problem. All right, I'll repeat that. David said to Natan, I have sinned to Hashem. Natan responded to David, so too Hashem has commuted your sin. You will not die. However, because you have thoroughly blasphemed the enemies of Hashem in this matter, the son that has been born to you shall surely die. Natan then went to his house, and Hashem struck the child that Uriah's wife had born to David, and he became gravely ill.
What's happening here? In those verses, the prophet Natan tells David HaMelech, listen, Nachon, that you said the verdict going to be a punishment of this, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgive you, like we explained, and the reason for it, number one, you ask for forgiveness, but because you didn't sin with a married woman, because Bathsheba was a divorcee. And we explained that in that time, when a man used to go to a war, they have an obligation to give their wife a get, and she wasn't married. And that's what's happened. So when David HaMelech took Bathsheba, she wasn't married. She was a divorcee. So that was okay. So the Mefarshim asked, why then David HaMelech got punished? Why did David HaMelech got punished? If she wasn't a married woman, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu punish now David HaMelech and the prophet telling him that another 4 tragedy gonna come to him, lo aleinu? The Mefarshim explained that the prophet saying it, and it's in verse 14, Ephes, ki ni'atzta et oive Adonai badavar hazeh. What does it mean? By that you married Bathsheba, nachon that you're allowed to marry her, but you cause Hilul Hashem. Why? Because by that people saw how you behave, okay, people will translate it the wrong way, will explain the situation completely differently, like you took a married woman, and that's cause by that act you desecrate the name of the Almighty. So say the Mefarshim, and say that the Metzudot David, Rabbi David Alchela, remember Rabbi David Alchela, we explained, he born 339 years ago in Galicia. He explained that here already the prophet hinting to David HaMelech, listen, member of your family gonna take your own wife. The same like you took the wife of Uriah, although that she was divorced, measure for measure, it's gonna happen to you. And not only that, you can't stop it. You're gonna see it in your own eyes, but you cannot stop it. That's how the Metzudot David explained. The Radak, Rabbi David Kimhi, born in France 866 years ago. He explained from that it's Lere'echa, Elia, it means that he's referring to his son Avshalom, like we explained. That his son Avshalom, that born to him from Ma'acha, that was Eshet Yefat Toar, that she was a pretty woman, and then he took her as a prisoner of war, and then he converted her. He gonna take your wife, okay? And that's gonna be the trouble that you gonna have. But here it says something very interesting. When Natan gone to his house, HaKadosh Baruch Hu immediately brought the first strike. What was the strike? That the firstborn, the baby born, that born to David HaMelech and Bathsheba, start to get sick. Okay? And David HaMelech now start to realize that you have to do something. Let's read verse 15, 16 and 17. And in verse 16, it says like this, ויבקש דוד את האלוהים בעד הנער, ויצום. דוד צום. הוא בא ולן ושכב ארצה, ויקומו זקני ביתו עליו להקימו מן הארץ. ולא הבא, ולא ברא איתם לחם.
David pleaded with God on behalf of the boy. David undertook a fast, and when he came in for the night, he lay on the floor. The elders of his house stood over him to raise him up from the ground, but he would not consent, and he did not eat food with them.
Okay, in these two verses, we see that as David HaMelech realized that the young boy got sick, he didn't wait. He gone and he started davening to the Almighty. Where did he go to daven? The Mefarshim explained that he gone to the tent where was the old tablet that broke, the first tablet that Moshe Rabbeinu broke. There was an ark, okay, but in a tent. That's where David HaMelech gone and davened. And during that time that he was davening, David HaMelech fasted, okay, because he believed that maybe the davening and the fasting, okay, will help to change the decree. But, okay, David HaMelech, we have to explain, he used to return at night home and he used to sleep on the floor. The Malbin, Rabbi Meir Lebush ben Yehiel Michael Weiser, he born in Ukraine 217 years ago. He explained that by that David HaMelech davened and fasted, okay, he wanted HaKadosh Baruch Hu to forgive him that he wouldn't strike the sun. That means he wouldn't kill the son. Not only that, the old member, the servant of his house, when they saw David HaMelech lying on the floor, okay, they tried to pick him up. David HaMelech refused. They tried to feed him. David HaMelech refused to eat with them. Okay, he didn't eat. He didn't want to eat bread with them, say the Malbim. What's happening? Because David HaMelech believed, and we'll see, that if he gonna act like this, there's a chance that maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu will listen to him and will forgive the sin of desecrating the name of the Almighty. That's again to the level of David HaMelech. We explained in previous showing, Rabota, I need to explain that because it's a very important point. David HaMelech is not any human being. David HaMelech was in a different level that we can't understand. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu judged the tzaddikim, he judged them on a fine, like the thickness of the hair, so fine. And if it was any other human being, I don't think that he would punish. But David HaMelech was in such a level that to David HaMelech, that considers Avera what he done, as a desecrating the name of the Almighty. Let's go to verse 18 and 19, and then we'll see what's happened. The prophet tells us in verse 18 and 19, ויהי ביום השביעי, וימות הילד, ויראו עבדי דוד להגיד לו, כי מת הילד, כי אמרו, הנה בהיות הילד חי, דיברנו אליו ולא שמע בקולנו, ואיך נאמר אליו, מת הילד ועשה רע. ויראה דוד כי עבדיו מתלחשים, ויבן דוד כי מת הילד. ויאמר דוד אל עבדיו, המת הילד? ויאמרו מת.
Okay. It happened on the seventh day that the child died. David's servants were afraid to tell him that the baby had died. For they said, behold, if when the baby was alive, we spoke to him, but he would not listen to us, how can we tell him the baby has died? He will do something terrible. David saw that his servants were whispering to themselves, and David understood that the child had died.
Okay.
David said to his servants, is the child dead? And they answered, he is dead.
What's happening here? Rabotai, we have to understand what's happening in these two verses. In the seventh day, on a seventh day for the sick, since the baby got sick, the child died. The servant of David HaMelech was worried. They was frightened to tell David HaMelech that the baby died. Why? They said to themselves, look, when the child was sick, David HaMelech didn't eat. David HaMelech didn't drink. David HaMelech fasted. David HaMelech slept. He castrated himself on the floor. And as much that we begged him, please don't lie on the floor. We tried to pick him up. He didn't want to listen to us. That while the child was still alive. Now that the child is passed away, what's going to happen if we're going to tell him that the child is died? And David HaMelech saw them whispering and he realized what's happening. The Metzudot David, Rabbi David Altshela say that you know why they didn't tell, the servant didn't tell David? Because they was worried that Chas v'shalom, David HaMelech gonna harm himself. Okay? Because they say if that's how he behaved before he died, now that he's gonna hear that his son died, how is David HaMelech gonna behave? He might gonna harm himself. When David HaMelech, we explained, saw that they're whispering one to each other, David HaMelech realized what's happened and he asked his servant, is the child dying? Now the servant cannot lie, because if they would lie, they know that there is a good chance that David HaMelech might gonna punish them. So they told him, yes, the baby died. Let's see in verse 20, how is David HaMelech actually reacting when he heard that? What did David HaMelech done, okay, when he heard that the baby died? לא עלינו. ויקום דוד מהארץ, וירחץ, ויסח, ויחלף שמלתיו. שמלתו, but it's actually, we should say שמלותיו, ויבוא בית אדוני, וישתחו, ויבוא אל ביתו, וישאל, וישימו לו לחם, ויאכל.
David got up from the floor and bathed and anointed himself and changed his clothes. And he came to the house of Hashem and prostrated himself. He then came to his house, and at his request, they served him food, and he ate.
What's happening here? It's exactly the opposite what the servant was thinking. When David HaMelech heard the bad news that his little boy from Bathsheba died, he realized he can't do anything about it. He stood up, got up off the floor, washed himself, okay? Not only that he washed himself, why did he wash himself? The Mefarshim explained that David HaMelech lay on the floor. And that time, they didn't have, okay, tiled floor. So David HaMelech got dirty. So he needed to wash himself. And not only that he washed himself, he also anointed himself, okay? He changed his clothes. And then, the funny part, he gone to the house of Hashem. And there he castrated himself again. He bowed down to the Almighty. The Mefarshim explain, you know what's happened? David HaMelech gone, that the Radak explained, first of all, Rabbi David Kimchi explained that, you know why he done it? He washed himself, he anointed himself as a king, he returned to become like a king, to dress up like a king, and he gone to the house of Hashem. He said, you know why? Because David HaMelech realized that he cannot go with dirty clothes to the house of the Almighty. He cannot stand up in the front of the Almighty and daven, because it's unrespectable to come to the house of the Almighty with dirty clothes. That's the Radak explained. But Rabotai, we have to understand what's happening here. David HaMelech gone to the tent where was the Holy Ark, and he davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why did he go there? He gone to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like we say, to להודות על הרע. What it means להודות על הרע? He said ברוך דיין האמת. The same like a person gets when HaKadosh Baruch Hu help all the Jewish people and giving them good things. We have to praise the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything that he give us, that Has v'Shalom lo yakum v'lo yeh, when not good things happen, we also should say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Said the Mefarshim, David HaMelech, then after he washed himself, he raised and gone to the tent where the Holy Ark was, and he said, Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. And not only that, after that, he returned to his house and he asked his servant, okay, to bring him food, okay? And the prophet said that David HaMelech eaten from the food that his servant given them. He said, lechem, vayochel lechem, ken, vayasimu lo lechem vayochel, that here the Mefarshim said that David HaMelech now realized that he can eat. Now all of you are going to say, wait a minute, I don't understand. Why did David HaMelech didn't moan? It's a young baby. Said the Mefarshim that David HaMelech said that how can he sit, okay, and he gonna moan? It was too young to moan on a baby like this. Therefore, he didn't want to moan. And David HaMelech, you have to remember, David HaMelech was king. He's not like any other person. David HaMelech was king. And as a king, you can't just dress or behave the way that you want. There's certain categories, there's certain act that the king have to act with. So the Mefarshim explained that the main reason that David HaMelech didn't mourn for that baby because he was too young. Okay, so that's
Rabbi Levy, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you mention why the baby died? I couldn't get into with you on the computer for about 20 minutes.
Yes, I will explain that it was because David HaMelech, the prophet Natan told him that he decided that he's going to bring on himself the rich men have to pay 4 times more. Natan HaNavi told them that he have to pay, he's going to pay with 4 disasters that's going to happen to him. Why? Because he desecrates the name of the Almighty by the act that he married Bathsheba, although that he was allowed to marry her. And we given a proof to it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu never told him to leave Bathsheba. If she was still a married woman, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will never allowed him to be with a married woman.
Thank you.
But
thank you.
Because to his level, okay, we have to understand, to David HaMelech's level, we explained, that was, he'd been judged with a fine thin line. And he'd been punished because according to him, that was desecrating the name of the Almighty. Nachon that he was supposed to marry Bathsheba, but he should have done it in a different way. The Mefarshim explained. Okay, let's go to verse 21.
Thank you. I've heard that before, yeah.
Pleasure. Verse 21 to verse 23. We're going to read verse 21, 22, and 23. And let's see what's happening here. ויאמרו עבדיו אליו, מה הדבר הזה אשר עשית? בעבור הילד החי צמת, ותת, וכאשר מת הילד, קמת ותאכל לחם? ויאמר, בעוד הילד חי, צמתי ואבכה, כי אמרתי, מי יודע? וחנני אדוני, וחי הילד, ועתה מת. למה זה אני צם? אוכל להשיבו עוד? אני הולך אליו, והוא לא ישוב אליו.
His servant said to him, what is this thing that you're doing? For the living baby, you fasted and wept, and when the baby died, you got up and ate a meal. He said, While the baby was still alive, I fasted and cried, for I thought, who knows, perhaps Hashem will show me favor and the baby will live. But now that he is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I will be going to him, but he will not return to me.
Rabotai, from these 3 verses, David HaMelech come to teach us something very important, that we have to look at life and we have to be very open-minded. David HaMelech been asked by his servant, listen, what exactly happening here? We don't understand. When the child was still alive, you cried, you fasted, okay? You prostrated yourself on the floor, okay? But when the child died, suddenly everything changed in a split of a second. And you got up, you washed yourself, you anoint yourself, and you eat it. David HaMelech now answered them. While the child was still alive, yes, I did fast, I did cry, I did daven, okay? Why? Because I said to myself, maybe Akadosh Baruch Hu will see me and in his eyes, and I will be favored, and he wouldn't punish the young baby. But now that the child died, okay, what is it going to help? To fast, not to eat. I can't bring back the baby. I cannot bring him back. Okay? The opposite is. And I can't bring him back because he's not going to return to me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to him. That's me. From now on, the day, it's just a matter of time until until David HaMelech going to return back his soul to the Almighty. When a person born, it's just a matter of time, okay, until he returns his soul to the Almighty. Some people, after, please God, 120, healthy. But we have to understand something very important David HaMelech tried to teach us here. And I think that the message that David HaMelech tried to teach us here, Rabotai, is very important. You cannot cry over spilled milk. If the milk is spilled, you can't cry on it. It's happened. It's done. Now we can move on. We have to look forward. And David HaMelech teaches us here something very important. We explained that David HaMelech didn't mourn on that baby because he was too young. And for that baby, he didn't need to mourn as a king. You have to certain level of respect to a king and certain conduct that the king have to act, that he have to do that. But Rabota, in a deeper explanation, we have to understand that David HaMelech here realized one important thing, that the prophecy that Natan HaNavi told him actually happened. And David HaMelech realized that that was the first punishment from the next 4, one of the 4 punishments that he's going to get. That's mean that the first thing that happened is exactly what the prophet told him. So David HaMelech realized that the prophecy actually happened. He can't change it. And if you can't change it, accept it. Thank the Almighty for all what He given you. It's not easy. It's not simple. May please God, none of us will experience that experience. But we have to understand, David HaMelech tried to teach us here, to give us something to think about. A milk that's spilled, you can't return it. So what there is to do is to move on in life. Because to sit and cry and to say that happened and that happened, not going to bring back the child, David HaMelech said to his servant. He explained to him that from now on, you have to move on. Let's go and to verse 24 and 25. In these two verses, we see what's exactly happening here. וינחם דוד את בת שבע אשתו, ויבוא אליה, וישכב עמה, ותלד לו בן, ותקרא שמו שלמה, ואדוני אהבו, וישלח ביד נתן הנביא, ויקרא את שמו ידידיה, בעבור אדוני.
David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he came to her and lay with her. And she gave birth to a boy and called his name Solomon. Hashem loved him. He sent word through Natan the prophet and called his name Yedidiah because of Hashem.
What's happened here? Look how things happen. Bathsheba saw that the baby that she had with David HaMelech died. Bathsheba didn't want to have any more kids from David HaMelech. David HaMelech comforted her and promised her that from now on she's gonna have a kid. Okay? Seder Ralbag. Ralbag is Rabbi Levy ben Gershom. He explained from that David HaMelech slept with Bathsheba, okay, and he had a child from her. It's proved that Bathsheba wasn't a married wife when David took her. The Radak explained, and he said something important, that David HaMelech promised. How did he comfort Bathsheba? By that he told her that the child that you're gonna have the child that you're gonna have, he's gonna be the king. And we know who took the place of David HaMelech? HaMelech Shlomo, King Solomon. Then the prophet tell us something very interesting, that when the baby born, Bathsheba called that baby Shlomo. Why Shlomo? Why did they call him Solomon? In English, you call it Solomon. In Hebrew, it's Shlomo. Why Shlomo? We need to understand what's hiding behind the name Shlomo. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent the prophet, Natan, and Natan HaNavi saying to David HaMelech, okay, telling them that they call Shlomo Yedidiah. Why Yedidiah? We have to explain this too. So the first question that we have to see from here, and we have to ask ourselves, is Bathsheba was a married wife? Definitely not. We've proven it, like the Radak say, because if she was a married woman when David HaMelech took her, she couldn't be. And the child that born from her couldn't be a king. Why? Because Has v'Shalom is a mamzer. By that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed David HaMelech to be with Bathsheba and to have a child from her, and the child become later on a king, that means that everything was kosher. Not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu call him Yedidiah. We'll explain what it means. But before that, we ask a question, why did Bathsheba call the son Shlomo? Why did they call him Shlomo? So the Mefarshim explain like this, Rabotai, we have to explain. The Mefarshim explain that the reason that Batsheva called him Shlomo, Shehashalom beyamav. What it means, Shehashalom beyamav? That the peace will be in his life. When Shlomo HaMelech became a king, when he took the kingship, the kingdom, and he became the king of Israel, it was Yemot Mashiach. Sorry. No war. Everyone appreciate the children of Israel. Everyone came to Bet HaMikdash, brought present. That means Shlomo HaMelech created peace all over the world. And that's what she called him Shalom. But we say that the prophet, what did the prophet say? HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him Yedidia. On Pshat of the Dvarim, why did he call him Yedidia? We say, because it said, Hashem Avo, because the Almighty loved him. For that you call him Yedidia? Yes. What does Yedidia mean? The name Yedidia. So let's take the word Yedid, Ya. Yedid is a friend. Ya, it means the Almighty. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved Shlomo HaMelech. You know why? Because he was a friend of the Almighty. So here is to prove to us, that David HaMelech was supposed to marry Bathsheba. And we explained, that the Mekubalim explained, that Bathsheba was a reincarnation of Hava. David HaMelech was a reincarnation of Adam HaRishon. To rectify the sin and the relationship between Adam and Hava, David HaMelech needed to marry Bathsheba. And that, now I'm going to 2 weeks ago shiur, that we explained, that the Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra says, Kol haomer David hata eno ela to'eh. The Gemara tells us, whoever said that David HaMelech sinned, is wrong. And here's the proof for it. Because if David HaMelech was not supposed to be with Bathsheba, and he sinned, he wouldn't get a son. Not him and not Bathsheba, but will be a king. And a king that in his time, all the world bowed down to the children of Israel. All the world accepted the kingdom of Shlomo HaMelech on him, accepted the wisdom that he had, because he was the smartest man. Everyone lived in peace and harmony in his time. You learn from here something very important, said the Mefarshim. That's to prove to us that David HaMelech never sinned. So you're all going to ask again, so why did he been punished, and why is he still going to be punished? Because according to David HaMelech, and I repeat it, and it's very important to explain that according to David HaMelech's level, he shouldn't do it in this manner. David HaMelech is a pious, Hasidani. David HaMelech witness on himself, Ki Hasid Ani. I'm a pious. David HaMelech was in a different level that we understand. And many people that read that verse 10, verse 11, made a mistake that Has v'shalom, David HaMelech took a married woman. Has v'shalom. And that's why I put a lot of emphasis that David HaMelech never sinned. To prove to it that from him came King Solomon. And they call him Shlomo, because what is mean Shlomo? Shehashalom shelo. Hazal says Shehashalom beyamav. During his life was peace between the children of Israel and all the world, because Shlomo HaMelech kept peace. He makes sure that the children of Israel are going to keep the law and the mitzvot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved them. So what did he call them? Yedidia, my friend. Yedid? Yeah, a friend of the Almighty. Who merit that the Almighty will call him my friend? Shlomo HaMelech, no one else. Okay, I would like to finish that chapter. So let's go and read verse 26, 28, until 28. And now the prophet changed completely from the story of David HaMelech. Now he's moving to a different story, to Yoav. Look what's happening. In verse 26, 27, 28. וילחם יואב ברמת בני עמו, וילכוד את עיר המלוכה, וישלח יואב מלאכים אל דוד, ויאמר נלחמתי ברבה, גם לקחתי את עיר המים, ועתה אסוף את יתר העם, וחנה על העיר ולכדה פן אלכוד אני את העיר, ונקרש מעליה.
Yoav fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and he captured the royal city. Yoav sent messengers to David, saying, I fought against Rabbah, and even captured the city of water. And now you gather the rest of the people together and encamp against the city and capture it, lest I capture the city myself and my name will be attached to it.
What's happening here? Here now, the prophet changed completely the subject. He's telling us that he's returning back to tell us about the war that we still have with the children of Ammon. Yoav was the chief of staff of David HaMelech. He was in a battlefield, and Yoav managed to conquer the capital city of the children of Ammon, that's called Rabat Ammon. He sent messenger to tell David HaMelech, listen, I conquered the city of Rabat Ammon, but not only that, I conquered, okay, the city Rabat Ammon. You know why? Because that was the main city that supplied water to all the surrounding cities of the children of Ammon. Therefore, please gather the rest of the army, the rest of the soldier, and please come and conquer the rest of the area that I didn't finish to conquer, okay? Simply because I want that city, that battle, because if I'm going to do that, I'm going to take the title. The Metudot David explained that Yoav didn't want to take the title, like he conquered the city of Ammon, he waited for David HaMelech. From here we see how righteous the officers of David HaMelech was. And he said to David HaMelech, I want that battle to be on your name, like you conquer the city of the children of Bnei Ammon. You conquer all of that area. And that's what's really happened. Look at verse 29 until 31. We're going to finish with that the verse. We have 7 minutes, so we're on time. In verse 29, the prophet tells us, ויאסוף דוד את כל העם, וילך רבתה, וילחם בה, וילכדה, ויקח את עטרת מלכם מעל ראשו, ומשקלה כיכר הזהב, ואבן יקרה, ותהי על ראש דוד, ושלל העיר הוציא הרבה מאוד, ואת העם אשר בא הוציא, וישם במגרע, ובחרצי הברזל, ובמגזרות הברזל, והעביר במלכם, you actually say במלבם, okay? במלבן, וכן יעשה לכל ערי בני עמון, וישוב דוד וכל העם ירושלים.
So David gathered together all the people and he went to Rabbi. He battled it and captured it. He removed their king's crown from his head. It weighed a talent of gold and had a precious stone, and it remained over David's head. He also took out a great deal of booty from the city. He took out the people of the city and punished them with saws, with iron threshing boards, and with iron axes. And he had them dragged through muddy streets. And this is what he would do to all the cities of the children of Ammon. David and all the people then returned to Jerusalem. Sure.
Okay. Here we see how a king should fight, how a king should deal with the enemy of the Jewish people. David HaMelech, after he received the message from the messenger, okay, or that Yoav sent, David HaMelech immediately gathered the rest of the soldier, gone and fight with the children of Ammon. He conquered, okay, the rest of the city around Rabat Ammon and the city, the capital. He entered. Not only that, he caught the king of Rabat Ammon, okay? What has he done to him? He killed him, but he took his crown. And here comes the question. The thing that belonged to Avodah Zarah, crown, gold, jewelry, Jewish people not allowed to benefit from. So how did David HaMelech put the crown on his head? Question number one that you have to ask. Was it Avodah Zarah? Question number two that we have to ask, what does it mean that the prophet tell us that it was on the head of David HaMelech? What, David HaMelech didn't have another crown? Why dafka this crown? Two difficult questions that we have to look. After that, David HaMelech took all the spoiled from the children of Bnei Ammon. How did he punish the children of Bnei Ammon? That he killed them with sword and all sharp stuff. Not only that, some of them he burned with the same like in their time they used to make, even today, that when you make bricks, okay, when you make the clay bricks, you burn it in an oven. He burned some of them. We have to understand why David HaMelech done it. Is that cruelty or not? So first of all, let's explain how can David HaMelech can take the crown? Rabotai, we have to explain Bnei Ammon. David HaMelech wanted to take the crown from the king because the children of Bnei Ammon, they have all the impurity and all the idols against the children of Israel, against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So David HaMelech needed to take that crown to bring it down, to bring all the impurity, all the evil forces down. The question becomes, if that's the case, how can he put it on his head? Said the Mefarshim something important. Ittai Hagitti was there. Ittai Hagitti wasn't Jewish. He was with the children of Israel, with the soldier of David HaMelech, but he wasn't Jewish. When David HaMelech took the crown of the king head, he given it to Ittai. Ittai despised. When a non-Jewish person despises the Avodah Zarah, you take all the energy of it, all the evil forces of it, leave it, and they put it on the ground. And that was to bring down the strength of the evil forces. After that, David HaMelech put it on his head. Why did David HaMelech put it on his head? To show that now it's gone to the purity, to the holiness. The Radak, Rabbi David King, he said, what does it mean he put it on his head? I'll tell you, it wasn't for a short time. Why? Because that crown was so heavy, like the prophet tells us. So David HaMelech wear it for a short time to bring to what we call it, to bring the Kedusha to it, and to put all the evil forces down to the ground, okay? That means to annihilate all the evil forces, while to bring the Kedusha up, and then David HaMelech took it. But David HaMelech didn't stop there. David HaMelech knew that he had to handle the children of Bnei Ammon. Why? Because if he would leave him alive, all of that evil force is going to come. So what did David HaMelech done? The first thing that David HaMelech done, okay, he started to handle the people of Bnei Ammon, because there was idol worshippers. So how did David HaMelech handle them? First of all, he didn't have mercy for enemy of the children of Israel. He didn't have any mercy for people that idol worshipper that go against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David HaMelech killed them. Not only that, David HaMelech even put them inside the oven, and he burned them, and he destroyed the entire place of Ammon. And because of that act, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw how David HaMelech acting. Look as it said. Vayashov David v'kol ha'am Yerushalayim. David and all the nation returned to Jerusalem. That means there was no casualty suddenly. Why? Because David HaMelech realized that if I want to sanctify the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if I want to create peace in the world, I have to do something. I have to annihilate Bnei Ammon. And that's what he done. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that the Melech HaMashiach who will come speedily in our day will treat all the enemy of the Jewish people exactly the same like David HaMelech. Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the shiur. I think that here in this shiur we prove that David HaMelech didn't sin, like the Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra says, Kol ha'omer David chata eno ela to'eh. But more important, we saw how a king should act. And that's what David HaMelech teaching us, how a king of Israel should act, not to listen to the rest of the nation. We should be independent. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be on our side.